We have actor, singer, songwriter, and star of the new movie Transformers Rise of the Beast out June 9th. Anthony Ramos, welcome to the show. I'm trying to tell you, you're cooking.
Yo, what's good? What's good? No, thanks for having me. No, I'm hyped. I'm excited.
Let's go. I'm telling you, so we're fans in this household. My son watches Hamilton faithfully. My wife is a Dominican from New York. So come on now. You just know she loved In the Heights. So we're excited to get going though. But honestly, I'm always excited because like you look mad. How old are you? You look mad young because you're I'm only saying that because you're rolling right now. Is that a thing in Hollywood? Don't ask it. But I'm just saying you're rolling and you've been a part of like major projects, now Transformers. So what even gets you excited about a role? Is it the script? Who's starring in it? The franchise? Because you've had some amazing roles so far in your career.
Yeah, no, I'm 31. I'm excited. I'm pumped about it's, the roles, the story is always for me the most important thing. It's like, what are we saying? Like what is the potential of what we can say? Sometimes, I'll do a movie and the script is not, I necessarily look at the script. I won't look for like a finished, complete story. Like I won't be like, oh my gosh, this is the best script I ever read. Is there enough here where we can improve this? Where we can turn this? Because it's also like if you have a collaborative director, I've been a part of movies where the script looked like one thing when we started, but it looked like a different thing when we finished, and I think that, almost on every film I've ever done, the script, the way it started.
So that's normal? Like that you just get a script and then what happens? Like the day of the set, like do you deliver it different and they're like, oh, I like that? Or like, how does that come about where it changes?
Or we rehearse sometimes. Sometimes I'll be like, when we're in rehearsal, we like, you know what? Maybe if we do it this way, you know what I'm saying? Maybe if I say this, if I say these lines this way, this might be better. Or, sometimes we'll be on set and I'm like, yo, this line is not really hitting, man. Like, and I'll be thinking about it and be like, you know what? What if we cut this line here, we put this one here, and then I'll just say something this right here instead of what's written. Wow. And then the director will be like, okay, yeah, dope, great.
That's crazy. You basically directed a little bit too. And I know that's kind of like how the maturation happens. I was talking to Michael B. Jordan. He was like, look, I already do it with my part. So when Creed 3 happened, I felt like I could step into that role. So is that like kind of the maturation of actors where you just start to do that yourself?
Yeah. When you start working on enough scripts, you start to, and it's also like life, right? You start to realize that, when you're having a conversation with someone, most of the time we're paying attention to whatever the meat of the conversation is, right? How do you just get straight to the point? And it's basically like you only got an hour and, you only got an hour and 50 minutes, hour and a half to hour and 50 minutes in a movie to tell this story. There's no time to dance around what you're trying to say or kind of find your way to what you're trying to say. That's what rehearsal's for, right? You dance around what you're trying to say until you figure out what you want to say, and then you just say that. And you cut everything else. You cut everything else around it. That's getting in the way of you just getting straight to the point. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you gotta get to the point. Every scene, you gotta get to the point.
Get straight to it. No, and that makes sense because it's even like right now, look, I got 24 minutes. I'm going to get right to it with you in a sense of I'm going to get right to it. And you have you act along like mega stars and even another star, Dominique Fishback is who on fire right now coming off of Swarm. That went crazy. So what was it like filming Transformers then? You're cutting up the scenes and you're talking about rehearsal. What's it like almost doing that dance alongside another star like Dominique Fishback?
Well, when you're working with someone like that, Dom's always thinking about everything. Like you got to see her notes. Like she makes me feel like a failure at life. I'm like, yo, like you just look at her notes, the way she breaks down scripts. Like we just have two different ways of working. I'm very especially a lot of my ideas will come in rehearsal or they'll come in sometimes when I'm reading a script by myself, the ideas won't come as quickly as when I'm reading it out loud with a castmate, or when we're doing it on set, and I'll be like, oh shit, you know what? We actually don't even need those 3 lines, because if I'm gonna walk right here already, or if I'm holding this card in my hand, we don't have to tell people what the organization I work for. If I'm holding a card, and you can just we could just literally do an insert of you shooting the card in my hand, cut back to my face or cut back to her face. Boom, the audience knows exactly who I work for. So we can cut that line or cut those 3 lines explaining them who I work for. We just get right to it. So the ideas will come when, sort of like, for me, like when we're in it, when we're in the mix, a lot faster. I still get ideas when I'm reading the script, but, for Dom, she's so academic. She was a valedictorian in high school. Like, she's so...
Dang, I know that.
Dom is like... She's like brilliant. And the way she breaks down scripts, a lot like who I'm working with right now, Daisy Edgar Jones, reminds me of Dom in that way. Like, me and Daisy were going over a scene the other day, rehearsing together. And it was just she and I, and we was talking to this gentleman, Kevin, who's actually, meteorologist here and working with us in Oklahoma on this movie to make sure that we get all the facts right. Everything we're saying is correct, scientifically correct. And I'm talking about, this guy was saying shit to her on the phone, and she was writing at a lightning speed pace. I was like, how the fuck is she doing that? Everything, yo. And and I told her on set 2 days ago when we were together, I was like, I just want to let you know that I was in awe of your artistry and brilliance the other day. I just wanted to say that out loud to you.
That's hilarious.
But, when you're working with actors like that, it makes the job a lot easier and more exciting too, because that you in it with someone who's bringing just as good, if not better, ideas as you.
That's facts. It reminds me of sports, like where if you got a teammate that's like, you see them holding up the squad, you like, all right, let me get in my bag and start to figure out how I can help. And you mentioned Daisy Edgar Jones. You also Glenn Powell is in your upcoming Twister sequel. And I saw that fans, like when they see y'all filming, fans is taking photos like, oh my God, I saw Anthony Ramos at the cafe. So what is that like when you're filming a movie? Like, are people like watching the whole scenes? Are they recording? Like, because fans recognize you.
They stay all day. Some will stay all day. Like there were these 2 women that sat at the cafe across the street the whole day. We shot for 13 hours and they were there all 13.
What? And then what happens if they're filming? Like, spoiler alerts, like what's going on?
Security will go across the street and be like, yo, can you, stop recording and shit. But they can't, you really don't know what's going on unless you can hear what's happening, and they can't really, we were shooting in this coffee shop. Literally just videos of 2 people sitting in the coffee shop shooting something, but you don't know what they didn't know what we're shooting.
For 13 hours.
She was out there, dedicated. Like, she was sweet though. She was like, can you ask me to come across the street, take a picture, take a video for her daughter and stuff. People are usually really nice. You know what I'm saying? They just fans of movies and, fans of the work, so it's sweet, man. It's nice.
But the fans are really, because sports and entertainment, we're a sports and entertainment podcast, so we like cover both sides because I feel like they're so synonymous. Like, I played in the WNBA 11 years, but now that I'm on the other side, I can see that it's synonymous. And even like, we got to hit up the Hamilton fans because you're iconic for that. Like, I'm a huge fan of Hamilton, but do fans ever come up to you and start singing your bars like, my name is Philip, I am a poet?
That's hilarious. It happens less now, but for sure the first like 3 years after I left the show, probably from like 2017 to about 2020, but I think the pandemic, the movie coming out kind of gave it a resurgence. So I think it kind of died down the last like year, actually. So, the movie gave people that extra battery in the back. They were like, now that started happening a little more, but it don't really happen that much. But it's cool. It's cool to know that, a lot of people were moved by that show,
Definitely. And okay, I told you like we're sports and entertainment. And I gotta ask, because I found out that you are an athlete too. You were on track to play NCAA men's baseball.
Yeah, it
Like
was
that's
D3 though. It wasn't. I'm not gonna go on here and be like nothing crazy. Like, yo,
listen.
I was D1, all state, all country. Like, you know, it's like, nah. I was gonna play.
So you was going to go D3. Okay, let's even say
Yeah,
D3 because, like, look, I
to
got a
pitch.
son right now that people want a scholarship in general. Like you saying D3, like, but D3 is
Yeah.
D3. Everybody ain't getting D3. But what made you choose? Like, I know it wasn't the top level of baseball, but was it just the passion that you had more for the entertainment space, or was it just like you thought, man, I can go farther in entertainment? That's where I'm rolling.
Nah. I mean, honestly, what happened was all my applications got withdrawn from all the schools I applied to, and including the school that I was gonna go to play. Like, or rather, the two schools I was considering, every application got withdrawn because I didn't get my financial aid form in time, the FAFSA sheet, the form you got to fill out for how much financial aid you're going to get or how much you qualify for. So because I didn't get that form in, we was going through a lot at the time, and so we missed the deadline, and basically acting was like, it was almost like this one school was the last resort. I was just had a meeting about to start telling the story. Like, I almost went to the Navy. Like, I was gonna apply, enlist in the Navy, and the recruiters were calling the house and shit. And my mom kept hanging up, like, he doesn't live here, shit like that. Like,
Mama was like, no, baby, he not going.
Yeah, true. Like, and my high school theater teacher, I started theater when I was 16 because I thought it was a talent show. Ended up being a musical. I was like, oh shit. She's like, well, we'd love to still have you. I was like, I don't know. I don't really act like that. She was like, you should try it. So I did.
Wow.
And I loved it. So I just kept doing it in my junior and senior year. And this teacher, like, she helped me, she gave me the pamphlet to this school in New York called AMDA, this 2-year school. You study musical theater or acting. I studied musical theater there. But she helped me. She helped me write the essays for the application. She paid for the application. She sent it out. She helped me with the audition material along with another teacher named Miss Hom Violette, who was my Shakespeare teacher at the time in school. I couldn't afford the school. Then Sarah, the director, she wrote a letter to Jerry Seinfeld Scholarship Foundation at the time. He had and I went and met with them, and I just told them my story, and they were like, I was just like, look, I need a chance. I just need somebody to take a chance on me. And then basically, I left. My grades weren't that good, but they called me a couple of days later, like, yo, we decided to give you the scholarship for any school you want to go to for 4 years. And yeah, It was crazy. Like, I got into AMDA, couldn't afford it, so it was all this stuff was happening, back to back, these like miracles happening for me, consecutively. It was like a blessing, and it was like life kept showing me that. I felt like it was God showing me, like, yo, this is where you're supposed to be. And I think in those moments, especially when I got that scholarship, I was like, all right, I think the baseball thing that's a dub. I think I'm done with baseball.
Oh yeah, it's a wrap at that point. I mean, you got your steps ordered when stuff like that happens. That's really crazy to hear. And it even makes me think about, you posted the other day that you took a DNA genealogy test and found that your great grandfather was a king. So listen, you talk about ordering your steps. I mean, you are the descendant of a king.
Like, I was like, I couldn't, like, there were 9 kings in the Guanche tribe in the Canary Islands before the islands were taken by the Spanish. And my 16th removed great-grandfather was one of the 9 kings. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, yo, I couldn't, like, it's like Dr. Henry Gates is sitting in front of me like, how does it feel knowing that you are the descendant of a king? I was like, what?
How do you even answer that?
Also what was hilarious was when we started the interview, because he started that show, Finding Your Roots. It was only for like African American actors or anybody of African descent, things like that, right? And then in the 3rd season, kind of opened it up to people of all races. But he made me laugh when he said, before we started, he's like, oh, I'm about to blow your mind, young man. He said, I'm about to tell you how black you are. And I started cracking
No.
up. And
So what was he meaning? Like, what did he mean in specific with that?
just like, I found, they do percentages of like, I'm 40%
Got you.
white Spanish, then 34% African. Like my family's blood traces back to Congo and Ghana and, Nigeria, like all throughout Africa. And then 17% indigenous, some being from the Guanche people, the Guanches, from the Canary Islands, and then some Tainos from Puerto Rico, the native people in Puerto Rico. So it was just crazy, like finding out all the, like my great-great-grandmother was like this African woman named Rosa Ali who in the African slave trade, for whatever reason, the Spanish people kept their documents, whatever in America, in North America, specifically in the United States, all these people who were brought from Africa, their documents were thrown away. It was almost like they didn't exist, right? But for whatever reason, the Spanish kept all the documents. So it was like, because my family, I had even, not only was my great grandmother a slave to this gentleman in Puerto Rico, that's how my whole family got to Bayamon. I mean, I could talk about this all day. It was crazy. This dude was blowing my mind.
But isn't it crazy though? Because I'm listening, like you telling a story. I'm like, okay, and so then what? But it's crazy to know your heritage like that was really crazy. But then it's also crazy to see like your great grandfather probably wouldn't be surprised looking at you sitting right here is what I mean, I'm just being real. It's like when you start to learn things, sometimes it just makes things make sense. And so I'm just saying, like, I feel like you had that moment because you just said, like, it was like my life was telling me something, God was telling me something. Then I'm like, shoot, you found out you were descendant of a king. Like, come on now.
Right. Unbelievable.
But so it also makes me think about too, like I talked about you're a singer, songwriter, and you have all kinds of different things going on. You have a new song that came out, Villano, I believe, which literally means villain in Spanish, and it has a reggaeton vibe. So what's the story behind the song, the inspirations to your music? Like, you multifaceted.
No, man, I think, I wrote this song probably a year ago or something like that. It was a while back. I wrote this song, but it was fresh off of, I had a breakup and it was, the breakup wasn't, everybody thought it was because of one thing and it wasn't. And, I hadn't said anything about it. And I was just like, you know what, the only place I'm going to talk about this is in my music and how this feels and the transition of what it feels like coming out of this relationship and how I felt all the way through to how I feel now. That the project is not finished. I mean, the first two songs come out. One comes out in June. The other one comes out in July. But it's basically this journey of like that initial feeling and then people's opinions about you and then what you think about yourself all the way through to now where I'm at now, and the work that it's taken for me to and the work that it still takes for me to, heal from that process and for me to, like find myself after having a fucking crazy experience like the one I had when after that breakup. I mean, it was a pretty intense time in my life. So I think now these songs are just how I feel about how I felt, because I don't necessarily feel the way I felt. I don't feel how I felt when I wrote Villano. I don't feel that way anymore. But in that moment, that's how I felt about myself, or that's how it was crazy. And then but I'm super excited to finally get these songs out because and then start to write new ones about where I'm at now.
Right. And that's what I was going to say, like, because, I mean, right now you're doing Twister, and is there something that, like, if it happens in your life, do you like, man, I got to get the pen, I got to write this moment out, even if you're busy on another project, like, do you make sure that you write out your emotion in the moment? Do you get what I'm saying? Because, like, right now you don't feel the same way you felt when you wrote the song, but you wrote it in that emotion, so you got the raw, and we got the exact energy. Do you have to do that live, or can you go back and tap into that energy?
Man, it just depends. Like, for example, right? Viano, I wrote months, almost maybe a year after the breakup even happened. So I had to tap back into that feeling. Maybe like it was months after, you know? But it was like I was sitting in the studio and I was like, yo, I still haven't written about this specific feeling that I had. You know, and then I got in the booth and the juice started flowing, you know, and then I'm really now I was, you know, I had a whole different second verse that was even more raw, and it was a little, but I felt like the second verse wasn't really getting to the point of what I wanted to say in the song, so I rewrote that second verse twice, actually.
Wow.
And finally we got one that got, again, like we said, straight to the point. Like the other two second verses were like 16 bars, then this was just 8. And I feel like this one is way more succinct and to the point than the other two that were written, that were actually raps. They weren't even, so I was saying way more. This second verse is.
So you almost made it a little lighter to make sure that it, you know, like, so what did you change when you went straight to it from 16 to 8? What changed in that transformation, 16 to 8? You said you got right to it.
I think, you know, what changed was like, it was almost like I was saying before, right? Dancing around the point. I was dancing around it. You know, you can find clever lyrics to say that sound cool, you know, to dance around the point. But the point is that, like, this is what y'all said I was, and this is who I know I am. Gotcha. You know, and how do I say that? And you know what? Let's shorten this verse and just say that shit in 8 bars. The same amount of time it took us to do the first verse, let's do the second verse with the same amount of bars and just get to the point. And you know, and we did. I just started flowing and just came out. You know, and I changed that verse recently, a few months ago, you know, because I just kept bumping up against this second verse. And I was like, this shit is hard, but it's not. It doesn't feel like what I want to say in this song. It doesn't feel like what I'm trying to say, the message I'm trying to get out in this track. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and you know, finally, I think, you know, we landed on it. You know.
Man, no, you basically got to put your emotions in a song and then even show the world your emotions. So I can understand how, like, getting that right could be a meticulous task. It's so exciting. And we are excited about the new movies that's about to come out. Transformers, Rise of the Beast, out on June 9th. Anthony Ramos, man, I appreciate you coming through. This is a home for you. You're always welcome here. I appreciate you, man.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. This was super fun, y'all. I appreciate it.